Well, hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of The Archive. My name is Saint Godric, and our goal here with this podcast is to tell interesting LARP stories and preserve LARP history. Today, I have Khaleesi Dawn Fel Contessa, Saint Daedera Dragoneye, a Master Smith and Master Crown out of the Kingdom of the Rising Winds. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I've been trying to catch up on your show. It's been really good so far.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. We appreciate you coming on. Pretty excited. Every time I can get a Master Smith on, I always get real excited simply because there aren't very many of them. So I'm excited to pick your brain.
It seems like they're really, really rare. Cause like I'm trying to find people to like mentor in Smith. Sort of like how I was mentored by our Smiths. And it's difficult. Like most of them also do other things like leadership and service. So they're kind of already belted to most people. So it's hard to pick out, the up and coming people who want to do the Smith work and not just a little bit of everything.
For sure. And if I recall, so Kingdom of the Rising Winds started in 2002. I want to say there's only 5 of you maybe, right? There's you, Paint, Ash, Smurf.
And Paint.
Yeah. You, Paint, Ash, Smurf. Am I missing anybody?
I think there's one more. No, I think Navrin's a Rose, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's a Rose.
You could probably go onto the orc and like do like the data thing and pull up all the knights. But I think you're right. There's only a few of us, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I mean, we might be forgetting someone that's gone, but
yeah. It's one of the
Tabs. I can't remember.
Well, he probably is, but he's not RW anymore. So
no, but he was when I was coming up and being trained.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those awards that it's kind of up there with like the Master Lions. We just don't see very many of them, and later on we'll get into why and maybe potentially on why do you think that is and what can we do as a game to fix it. But I want to start going back a little bit further. So before you even got into LARPing, was there anything nerdy adjacent or LARP adjacent that you look back on now and you're like, okay, I can see how that led me to LARP?
Oh, definitely. So Magic the Gathering came out. I don't remember what year. I was like in grade school. So that was like the first really nerdy thing that I got into. I came in beta and Ice Age. Played a little bit back then. Tells you how old I am. And then when I was, I guess middle school, I got to play my very first game, tabletop game, Werewolf the Apocalypse. And I was already like really into theater and performing arts and things like that. So I loved role playing and getting to tell a story like cooperatively with other people. It was something to do and aftercare, because like my parents worked late. School gets out at like 2:30 back then. And, I had a few hours before they would come pick me up. And then like I played tabletop games all through high school until I graduated. And then I started in what they're called parlor LARPs. Mm-hmm. So I started in a parlor LARP that was One World by Night, which is like all of White Wolf's books combined into one. It wasn't the actual group One World by Night. I'm just using that as a reference because it's the same style. It was I forget what they call a troop game. So like it wasn't like an organization game. Yeah. And I played in that for years. I took a break, because like organizers get overrun, they get stressed out. And so there wasn't like a LARP for me to be in for a while. And I just did tabletop gaming. And then my friend, Lady Sage Ravenpaw from Sky Harbor, the now dead chapter of Sky Harbor.
Not dead, merged.
Yeah, we merged them. Well, I mean, I wrote an ending story that the citizens of Sky Harbor like agreed to was like the end of the lore for Sky Harbor, and it crashed into Maddox Keep. So
I like it.
Yes, it was very dramatic.
So tell me a little bit more about the parlor LARPs, because they are an enigma to me. Like there's something I have heard about, but I have never played. So when one plays a parlor LARP, what does that look like? Is it okay?
You might do it behind your head, do it behind your back. Some people use cards. They have dice. Cards are nice because there's technically like someone did a thesis or like some kind of scientific like observational study of rock, paper, scissors and body language tells. So like we had a player in our LARP who started memorizing people's body language tells to see what they were going to throw before they threw it. So whenever that person played, I used cards for my rock, paper, scissors. Because it's true, like, because whenever I go scissors, like my arm would go out wide and I would do this like cool, like, haha, like I'm doing scissors. And if your rock, it's usually like more sudden and direct, like you're not doing anything fancy with it and stuff like that. So, it's rock, paper, scissors, but it's mostly like you would imagine a play, but we're all a part of the play. And we're on the stage. There is no audience. The other players are also the audience. And then you act out your characters and you act on your character's impulses. And it can be hard. There's a term called bleed, and that's where you or your character bleed into one another. So that's something that a lot of people in that kind of community preach to like practice against, and to be mindful of. My favorite parlor LARP scene that I've ever done was a bit of stage acting. So this is a game that a friend of mine developed. It's only been ran a few times, but it's like a set session game. It's like only 10 game sessions long, and it's called Gods. And so it's at the beginning of creation, and it goes to like the end of creation, like Ragnarok, where the end of the gods are. And I was the goddess of nature. So their ability is like you can create monsters and animals and things like that. So the god of fire, he wanted me to make him a monster to fight with him. So the player came to me outside a game and said, hey, I want to do this cool scene where I drag you off forcefully and like force you to make this monster for me to help create drama, because he was playing like the bad guy, right? So we had a little bit of theater background. So he, for the scene, had a hold of my hair, and I held on to his wrist and like dragged me, like, and I kicked and screamed to the point to where some people went and complained to the game organizers that maybe something had happened. Like they were a little concerned. So I thought that was really cool that it was that intense of a scene for them that they had to double check, like, that everything was kosher.
That is pretty neat. And so there is generally, I'm imagining it more like a D&D where there's a set story, a set person who is telling the story, and then the players are interacting with that story. Is that kind of, am I getting that right? There are storytellers, but they don't stand over you. They resolve conflicts and ensure that everyone's following the rules. They will introduce story hooks and like plot hooks, but it's not as much as a railroad or being an ever-present force there to answer your questions and things like that. It's more the characters themselves, the players themselves oftentimes create more plot, than the storytellers will in a parlor style. That's neat. I know I have done every Halloween, some of my friends from church, we get together and do a murder mystery dinner thing, and we all draw characters and we have the outfits and we go through, and there is a story, but it's not necessarily a storyteller. It's one of those, like everybody gets a packet, and then as you go, you're trying to find out who the murderer is. And it's a lot like that. Okay. Because you'll have influences and resources and skills and abilities that will get you information. So you'll get a packet of information at the beginning of the game into the things that you wanted to know, and then you act on that information that you have. And some people will use their actions against you to hurt you, to like limit what you can do in your downtime and stuff like that.
The last parlor like I played in, I played a crazy forest witch. It was Sabat, and I became the de facto leader because no one else wanted to lead the city. But I didn't really want to lead. I just wanted to find other cool magic things. So it often created a lot of player conflict because things would be going on and they'd be like, we need to resolve these things. And I'd be like, or we could study them. So that's where like an example of like how they introduce plot, but then like it's really ultimately up to the players and how they interact with it, like what gets sussed out. So usually storytellers in that regard will have like 10 plot points and maybe half of them will actually become part of the story.
Okay. Now, how large, how many people are we talking? I'm assuming this isn't like a 50-person game. Oh, it is? Okay.
So in the org that I played in, it was national. We had hundreds of people. I went to New Orleans.
Cool.
I went to Midwinter Gaming Convention in Minnesota several times. Our local, we had probably 20 to 30 players.
Okay.
Anytime we went to an event, we could have 50 to 150 probably. And then we had online organizational play too, and things like that. My first LARP that I ever played in had like 60 players. It was based here in Louisville. Midnight Souls was the name of the troop game, and it was amazing. Like I also played in small games where we had like 15 people.
Yeah, see, that's more of what when I think of Parlor LARP, I think of a D&D size group. And so that for whatever reason, that's just always what I thought. And so the idea of how do you manage that many characters trying to interact and do what those characters want to do without a storyteller or a DM with
4 or 5 storytellers. 4 or 5 storytellers. One storyteller per 10 players.
Okay.
And then each storyteller, one will handle influence, one will handle backgrounds, one will handle status. And so then each one has their own little category of things that they handle. And then all the storytellers will have meetings between games to discuss what plots the players have picked up on, which ones they haven't, which ones they're going to push, which ones they're not. So I didn't just play in the Parlor LARP in the organization. I actually got involved on the organizational level. I was one of the assistant storytellers, national storytellers for Werewolf the Apocalypse, or Werewolf. Oh, it's not the Apocalypse, the Awakening, I think, or the Forsaken. It's been too long now.
One of those edgelords.
Very edgelord inserted here. Werewolf the Apocalypse was the first one, and then they remade them. By Night Studios did mid 2012, 2014, something around there. Probably, I'm not sure when the book came out, but I got involved in about 2015 to 2018 is when I played.
Okay. It's pretty neat.
About 3 years in an organization. It was really neat. Going to conventions and like running convention events was an amazing experience, and definitely I feel like helped me learn more as a Smith in general for also being able to pull that back to Amtgard.
Mm-hmm. I see something like that. I think I could get into my only interaction with any of the Parlor LARPs have been Vampire the Masquerade. And I just don't fit well with that setting.
It's toxic. It is a very toxic scene. Everyone is your antagonist. Mm-hmm. I quit organizational LARP because of how toxic Vampire was. And the fact that the organization, I was spoiled with Amtgard. We have toxic players. We throw them the fuck out. Sorry, we throw them out.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, good. But in this parlor, they were very reluctant to throw anybody out. I had a incident with a girl, and she got on our public Facebook group and started defaming me and like calling me some crazy shit. And I like the admins of the page like removed it, right, and warned her, but like I really feel some of the language and terms that she used, it deserved more than like a warning. And I eventually left over it because I was like, I know how an organization can be run without toxic people and how enjoyable it can be. So I'm out.
For sure. So that was before Amtgard. Were there any other?
That was during Amtgard too.
Oh, during Amtgard. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I almost didn't get knighted because of it. They thought I was going to quit Amtgard for parlor Larp.
Gonna get the suitcase and leave.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I've been accused of the same thing. Don't worry. So before that, though, were there any other LARP adjacent things or other LARPs, or was like Amtgard your first boffer combat type of LARP?
Yes. So in the area, I guess Watt had run, Sir Watt had run several like humans versus zombie events, but I never heard of them. Where I could have been introduced earlier, but that was like based in Louisville and I'm Southern Indiana technically. So the first time I ever heard was when Sage invited me. She invited our whole college club to come and help protect the Shire because the villainous Maddox Keepers were going to come and invade them. So.
Now, for those who aren't familiar with Rising Wind's geography, Maddox Keep is are they a duchy? I'm pretty sure it's a duchy. Yeah, duchy in Louisville. And then right across the river into Indiana was the Shire of Sky Harbor. And so what was the distance? They were
20 minutes apart.
20 minutes apart. And from my understanding, from the outside looking in, it was a friendly, like close. Sometimes parks that are super close can butt heads and stuff. And I'm sure there was some of that, but from the outside looking in, it looked very amicable. Everybody was having fun. And so I always thought that was pretty neat to have parks that were that close that could raid back and forth. I've always enjoyed that when I've been in that setting.
Yeah, we had a rivalry for a long time. It was a fun rivalry. Maddox Keep came and raided Sky Harbor every year. A couple years after I joined, though, probably 2014, we had our final raid, and we agreed to a peace treaty. And the champions, myself and Rufio, I had to take a bite out of a cabbage as like the act of peace, like the extension of the olive branch. But instead, we shared a cabbage together, which lore-wise, Sky Harbor were known as dirty cabbage people. Like we're just a small shire that only grew cabbages, right?
I love it. I instantly jumped to Avatar: The Last Airbender with the cabbage merchant. I love that. I could get a whole cabbage guard. That would be pretty cool.
Cabbage guard.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about your first couple of experiences coming out to Amtgard. What were the things that hooked you? What were the things you loved? Like what was ultimately the thing that made you say, man, I think I can actually play this game for a while?
Man, so I wasn't in a parlor LARP at the time, right? And I came out the week before the event to just sort of scout it out and be like, hi, I'm new. I don't know anything, to Maddox Keep. I was also scouting the competition, to see like how challenging this raid was going to be. And it was pretty cool. Like, I'm shy, which may be hard for people to realize, but like, I don't do well like in groups of new people that I don't know. Like if there are people around that I know, I could be myself, be more comfortable. I seem very outgoing, but if I'm in a crowd of strangers and I don't know anybody, I am like silent as the grave. Like I'll just sit there and watch.
I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. If I have one friend, I'm the most extroverted person. But if I don't know anybody, it is very difficult for me to come out of my shell.
I remember Robin Shutterbug. She was the first person to talk to me and try to invite me and be like, hey, you don't have to sit there by yourself. Come over here, sit with us and talk with us. So that was very nice. That was very cool. And then
I'm gonna pause you right there real quick, because I think that is an incredibly important point that I want to emphasize. Almost every new player that I have talked to can point back to and name the person who was nice to them for the very first time in Amtgard. For me, I remember my wife came out, and it was Lady Jet, who came over to my wife when I was out fighting, and brought Abby over and sat down and like made her experience very fun when Abby didn't know anybody. And you have Robin. For me, it was Keldar. Like every player can remember that player who was nice to them and made them feel included. And so the goal of veteran players, if you're watching this, you're most likely not a brand new player. You don't just stumble onto a 2-hour long form podcast if you're a brand new player. And so if you're listening to this, I'm assuming you're a veteran player playing fairly regularly. Strive to be that person for every new player. The one that when they look back in 5 or 10 years, they go, yeah, I remember such and such because they made me feel at home and welcome. And that's part of the reason why I'm still here.
It's hard because I am shy around people I don't know, but I make an effort every time we have a new player. I say hi to them. I ask them if they have like a fantasy name. I try to make them feel at ease, like they've got time to figure stuff out, like nothing's pressing. I ask them a little bit like what kind of hobbies, how did they hear about us? And then in general, I take the time at that moment to go over like basic hit locations, like try to introduce them to the spellcaster classes. It could be a lot, like right at first, but like
good luck.
Just sort of like generalize like what those classes can kind of do. And then try to give them like a rundown of what they can expect, like from us, like on a day-to-day and stuff like that. And then be sure for the next couple of weeks following, like when they're coming out, the moment they get there, have that initial interaction with them, talk to them, get them engaged, make them feel welcomed. You don't want to just talk to them the first time they come out, and then the next time they come out, like ignore them completely. You need to keep up that engagement until they have been integrated into the community.
Yep. And something I always try and push to even my most introverted of Amtgarders, if you ask 3 questions, people love to talk about themselves. So even if you can just memorize 3, it doesn't even matter what they are. You just ask a 10-second question and let that new player talk for 5 minutes. And most people like talking about themselves. And so even if it's like, man, I'm really uncomfortable here, it's, hey, how'd you hear about us? Have you seen Game of Thrones when that was popular? Are you trying to do something in Game of Thrones? Who's your favorite character? And they just go. And then you don't have to say anything else, and that player already feels welcome because you went out of your way and asked one question. Just
be sure to keep eye contact, make audible like recognition of things that they're saying, so they're getting feedback and lets them feel like you are listening to them. And do be an active listener to what they're saying and not just staring at them, nodding blindly.
Yeah. For sure. So you started in 2000 and what'd you say, 13, 14?
I started April 2012.
2012. Okay. And played locally. I remember, and I think I told you this when you were doing your interview show, when I came on you were doing one for the Rising.
You mean when I was doing your interview show?
Yeah. Whatever it was. And I remember one of my first events you were at also. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together until years later because I was in a belt line that you were getting inducted to also. And we were both, I was a page to Keldar, who was a squire to Horus. And I want to say you were getting an at-arms.
We were at that event together?
And it wasn't Viper?
There's pictures of me. There are pictures of me at that event standing in that circle where they made us all introduce ourselves. I can't believe it.
Yep. And so that was my first event that I remember.
That was my first event. And I started that April, and that was the June following that April.
Yep. And I was a page out there at what? Okay.
I think I was a man-at-arms.
It was before Heartland. What was that site called?
Falling Rock.
It was I want to say the last event or second to last event out at Falling Rock.
It wasn't the last event. The last event was like in the freezing colds of winter.
Okay. Because this was a Bridge Wars, if I recall.
Yes, it was the Chair Wars.
Yeah. So since it got brought up, We gotta explain it. So,
we gotta talk about the chair wars.
Yeah. Essentially, Bridge Wars in the Kingdom of the Rising Winds is the competitive event every year. It's the one where it's generally fighting companies versus fighting companies. This year in particular, there were a bunch of different groups that had traveled in. I want to say there were like a dozen teams fighting. It was really, really fun to watch. But this year, they changed it up a little bit, and generally, whoever won the main bridge fight won the whole thing.
Yeah, the fights were scaled in a way like it's kind of like Keep, where there are games on several days, and each of the games are worth several points. But the one that was always worth the most points was the ending bridge battle.
Yep. And so this year, we call it the Chair Wars year, was when they changed those points up and started giving more points for things that weren't the main bridge battle. And for service, for sitting gate, I think they ended up doing a spell ball throwing competition they had a really awesome archery competition. Mm-hmm. That was Kai, her first time back to Amtgard as well. And she won the archery competition, and Vanguard picked her up that day. Cool. I like it. And listeners, don't take any of that as being pejorative by any means, right? I think the people who serve should be getting points for their fighting company if it means, that is part of the structure. What was that?
Oh, I was saying, I didn't come up with the name Chair Wars. That's just the memes about it that I've heard.
Yep. And why it was called Chair Wars is because FC Fermcrux stomped that Bridge Wars, just completely annihilated the actual game of Bridge Wars, but got second place to the Saracens, who sat more gate shifts and won the spell ball throwing competition. And so that put them above, even though the Saracens got, I want to say it was like fourth or fifth in the actual fighting. They had more people sitting gate, so they won Bridge Wars. And so people negatively called it Chair Wars because it wasn't actually about the bridge. It was more about who could sit the most butts in the chair at gate was kind of the joke. Yes.
But I mean, it was smart of them to calculate the points that way.
Yeah, they won. I don't get the people that got upset about that, in my opinion. Like, everybody had the same rules in front of them. Your company could have done the same thing, but you opted not to. That's on you.
And people signed up for gate, but then they would go to gate. The Saracens would be there, and they would be like, "I'll take your gate shift for you," and they'd be like, "Oh, cool! I don't have to sit gate," and then leave. So it's your own fault, guys. You should have set gate.
100%.
Should have got your points.
If you look at the who won Bridge Wars, FC won, I want to say 7 in a row. And then, but technically that in that middle, there's a Saracen win. Even though FC won the actual Bridge Wars, Saracen won the whole event. So it's FC, Saracens, FC. It's pretty funny.
I don't think it's like that anymore now. I think it's just the bridge battle now.
I don't know. I think each year it changes, right? Whoever the autocrat is can choose different things. But I think the populace cares more about the bridge fight than they do everything else. And so I think the game runners over the last few years have just adapted to that. So, but I'm not sure. I know that the last 3 years probably that it's been, the bridge has been the main thing to shoot for.
Yes. From my experience the past few years, the bridge battle has been the big one. If you win the bridge battle, you're going to win Bridge Wars.
Yep.
That's the way it was in the past. It was only that one instance where that wasn't the case.
And people threw a fit.
Oh yeah. They should have read the rules for the types of people that threw a fit. They're also the types of people that game the rules. You had no reason to be mad. Sorry.
It was Saracens did not cheat that away from anybody. They read the rules and played the rules better than you did. But I remember that event, and I was sitting in awe of the bridge fights. That was one of the things that hooked me the most, was seeing the full armor 10 on 10. And for people who are outside of the Rising Winds, it might not make 100% sense, how much, I can't tell you how much Bridge Wars is such a big part of Rising Winds culture. For the fighting companies, we
changed the month that the Bridge Wars is in to make it more available to people to come out because it is so popular. It used to be we changed it because it's so popular to our winter event to get more people out. We used its popularity to boost our winter numbers.
Correct. Well, and too, so it used to be in June in Ohio. And so how hot that is. And now it is in November in Ohio. And so it's generally like 50 degrees ish and compared 60 degrees, maybe
Much better for people in full armor.
That. And so it made because what they do is they take all of the fighting companies that show up and they just do a bracket. And if there are 8 teams, right, you're doing a full bracket all the way up to the winner. And sometimes they even do double elim. And so if you're having to fight, each round is 30 minutes to an hour in full armor for the whole day, I think moving it to the winner was a good choice. But it really is a huge part of Rising Wind's culture and battle gaming culture that other kingdoms who don't have a massive company presence or a big battle game presence, I think they hear us talk about Bridge Wars. They're like, what? That doesn't even sound that fun. But let me tell you, when you're here, it's a blast.
Fun. It's dangerous. You got a whole bunch of people in a tiny space and you don't want to fall off the bridge. So.
Yep. I love it. It's my favorite event of the year. Hands down, bar none. I love that event.
It's coming up here soon.
It is. It's what is it? Second weekend of November, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep. So I love that event. One of my favorites. So back to your early days of Amtgard.
Yeah,
so,
we've gone a long ways from then.
It's all right. It's all good. So what were your impressions from that first event? You show up as a new player, not playing for very long. You said that you got your Woman at Arms belt. You're sitting there. What's on your mind? You're at that first event. What are you thinking?
What the fuck am I doing? That was the event lady. I don't remember her title, but I think she goes by Dame Hakana.
Yep. Hawks
got knighted at that event.
Yep.
But she also taught a class. So I tried to do a little bit of everything. I did some battle gaming. I did the class. They had a masked ball at the event, and the class that Hakana did was a mask class. So you made a mask for the masquerade ball. And I guess like a lot of it was just talking to people, getting introduced to people. I wasn't in a company at the time, so
which is smart. If you happen to be a new player and you're listening, don't feel the need to join a company at your first event. See the culture, learn the culture, figure out who you're going to mesh with. Don't feel that, in my opinion, don't feel that desire. It's like, well, I've been in the game for 6 weeks and I'm not in a company. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I made a rule for myself. I wasn't going to join a company until I got 2 warriors because I understood that companies were for fighting. And if I couldn't prove myself at least to get 2 warriors, be like, I have some basic comprehension of how to play this game, then I don't want to be in a fighting company.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
I did make a household though. Day 1 had a household already. So I read the rule book.
And what was that?
House Dragon Eye. It's a family household. We're all dragons. And it's just about helping each other. It's about being a family, right? And enjoying this game as a family together. So like when they do house cups, we do that together, and things like that. In recent years, like we don't have very many members. A lot of people have left the game. But like when we first started, we had like 8 members.
Cool. I just started when I got knighted. I started the Gray House, and it's something similar. And we've got a few people in it so far. And I love the idea of the belted families that actually mean something. I know some people, different belted families, they look at it and they're like, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But then some, like for me, I had some great relationships with the belted families, and I like that for the house cup type stuff. That's neat.
It's a lot of fun. We won several of them. Smurf and I won the ping pong, the throwing the balls into the cups. Redrick Dragoneye ate the most hot dogs. It was a lot of fun. So I miss those guys. I'm sad that they don't play Amtgard anymore. It's pretty much just me and my sister Lucia now. We got a cool motto. It's with sweat and blood.
I do like that.
Because Amber and I were doing crafting together, and we started sweating, and both of us like pricked or cut ourselves and we're bleeding. So I was like, dang, this is it. Perfect house motto right here.
That is a good house motto.
It's all about not just self-improvement, but like helping each other and bettering each other and helping each other reach for their goals. So I guess kind of like a belt line, before I was in a belt line.
Yeah, 100%. So from your first event, how long was it until you decided, I think I'm going to do some of this kingdom stuff? Because your first masterhood was Master Crown. So what was the time span between, I'm going to sit here and enjoy this game, to, man, I think I should probably lead some stuff in this game?
Right. So I already kind of had like a leader background. I was on several board director positions for like nonprofit gaming groups. I've been like the president of like the college gaming club for like several years running. And it wasn't that like no one didn't run against me. It was just that like they liked me in that role. So
yeah,
we didn't have any of this like 2-term limits, like it was usually like whatever. But so I became the Guildmaster of Barbarians.
I remember those.
Yeah, we don't have them anymore. Before I was a citizen. So like no one ran for it. And I saw it on the Kingdom page and no one ran for it. This is June. So this is like 3 months after I started. No one, and I messaged the monarch and I was like, hey, like by the rules, like, you can appoint somebody to this position. Like I'm new, but I really love the barbarian class. And so I would love to be Guildmaster Barbarians. And so they appointed me Guildmaster of Barbarians. So that was my first kingdom position. And then I came back about, I guess, like a year and a half later to be the regent of the Rising Winds. And that was mostly in reaction to things that I was first going for a serpent. Or maybe not even a serpent, but like a master dragon. I got 6 dragons in my first 6 months. Yeah. I got a perfect score on I think it was my sixth dragon at Keep for a charcoal drawing that I did. And I was super stoked. Like I didn't win because it didn't like meet the category and like it didn't have relevance or whatever. But I was just happy that I got all 5, like back when we used to do only 5s in A&S. We don't do that anymore. But it was just like the community had a negative reaction to the previous regent and some things that happened in A&S. So I felt it was I could do it well. And so I ran for regent against the incumbent regent and I won.
Which is hard. Anytime you beat an incumbent, it is fairly difficult.
And so
how did that reign go? How, looking back on it, did you accomplish the goals that you had set for yourself going into regent? Did you enjoy your time as regent?
I did. Yes.
Because I hated my reign of regent. I accomplished my goals, but I ended up hating it. I did not enjoy it.
I guess it can be tough choosing who gets what, if they get the award or not. And you have to take the backlash for that. And that can be very difficult for people to handle. I've lost a friend over it. But I am made of sterner stuff and I will stick to my guns. I'm not, I'm an Aries. I'm not not that I believe in astrology, but I'm not someone that backs down, from a position that I'm firmly in. Like my mind can be changed, right? But I'm not going to back down from my stance once I've taken it. So that's what happened. And then after that, I can't remember. I think I ran again, but lost. And then I ran again right after that and won. So people were like, let's give this new guy a try. And then they're like, oh no, we didn't like that. Let's go back to Daedera, I guess. It was interesting.
Was that regent a second time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
I did Regent, and then just looking at my orc here, it looks like took a half a year off and then came back as Regent again, or took a year off and came back as Regent. Yeah. So it's hard for me to remember the before times.
Yeah.
But I have to rely on this. Yeah. I was also the Regent both times in the winter.
Which is rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, for people who aren't used to being in office at kingdom level, most of the drama in our game happens in the winter months, where everyone is generally at home and not seeing people face to face. Before COVID, that was when the keyboard cowboys would always come out right around January, February. You could always bet on something was going to happen. And so there's this joke of, I don't want to be a winner. I don't want to be a winner monarch. I don't want to be a winner PM. Like, nah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I didn't know any better. That was just when I happened to win the election. That was good enough for me. But I cared a lot about ANS because I was an ANS, and I wanted to make sure that we kept our standards high and equal, like fair for everyone. And so I wanted to try to help set that bar.
Well, let me get your take on this then. So I'm torn. So since I got my masterhood, I have shifted more and more towards we should give awards, high level awards, more frequently. I look back at the climb, as it were, for me to get my Master Dragon, and looking back on it, I think that is too difficult. And I think that we should do it a little bit more. But then on the other hand, I look at some of the masterhoods, that the kingdom has handed out in the last 2 years or whatever. And some of them I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. So like, I'm torn. I'm like, on one hand, I think we need to give more, but then on the other hand, I'm like, man, that standard is not where I think it should be now. And I don't know where
it's hard. It's so hard. For me, 9 and 10 are the crucials where I'm going to be extra harsh and judge. And it's not just because of my experience. Like, I know Crown, there's no experience, and I got Crown before there was actually Orders of the Crown. But I do have that experience from Smith. I Smith stuff for 2 years without getting anything. I did 2 battle cries, and I was already at my 9th. So there was no recognition there for me. So I understand the grind can be hard, and I do think it needs to be looked closely at. But I still think that we should have expectations that there needs to be a production. You can't just be like, well, you haven't made anything, but looking back at all your awesome stuff, we're going to just be like, here's your 9th and your 10th. Like, you still need to be involved. You still need to be producing, involved. And I think as long as you're still doing that, then we can seriously look at, is it a 9th or a 10th? But otherwise, like, I hate it when someone gets a 9th or a 10th and I have no idea what their work is. I should know.
Yep.
I should know your work. I should be able to see it. Like, even for people like all the way out in Ohio, where he's getting ready to be knighted. It's been a long time coming for him. I'm going to say his name wrong. Asar.
Yeah. Master Garber.
He's a Master Garber.
Yep.
He was making amazing garb, but he never came to Kingdom stuff. He never really entered in Kingdom stuff unless someone hassled him enough to let them bring his stuff to Kingdom. So there's an example of like someone, I think that should have earned their masterhood probably a long time ago. But even though he didn't participate in Kingdom, like, he was prominent enough that I knew about him and that I knew his work. And I really feel like if you're at the masterhood, people should know your work.
Yep. That's the hard part.
So there should be no like, boo, like, oh, that person got their night. Well, what do they do? Like, what have they done?
That's the hard part for me, because I am outside of the Kingdom of the Rising Winds, and I'm hearing, oh, such and such got this, such and such got that. And for me, for the last, 7 years, I have entered or judged pretty much every ANS tournament or been around my finger was on the pulse of that kingdom for such a long time in the ANS world. And when I hear such and such masterhood goes out and I have to go, wait, who? Like, that's hard for me, but I think I would be okay with it. Here's the biggest thing for me. I think I'm okay with handing out more ANS masterhoods if there was a culture where not every master got knighted. And at least in the Rising Winds, the majority, I would say 90%.
It's so weird. It's so weird. I see it. I see it. I know what you're talking about. Once you get your masterhood in the Rising Winds, you pretty much get your belt. Like 6 months
almost
later.
A guarantee. Yeah.
It's almost a guarantee. As long as you're not an asshole, like, you're going to get your knight belt. And
even then, as long as you're an asshole to the right people, or not to the wrong people.
I would vote no on you if you were an asshole. If you were an asshole to anyone and I heard about it, I would vote no on you. I'd be like, they need to clean their attitude up.
I think I'm okay with more masterhoods if maybe 60% of all masters got knighted, or 70%. But like right now, the masterhood in my mind is almost used as a stopgap. Like, we don't want this guy to be a knight, so we're not going to give him masterhood, because once he gets masterhood, he's going to be a knight. And so it is another, stopgap.
There's not enough separation in the Rising Winds between knighthoods and masterhoods, and I think that's a serious issue. Mm-hmm. Xander Clade talks about it all the time. Sir Xander Clade. I think it's Warder Xander Clade, actually. Yeah. He talks about it, and I agree that there's not enough distinction, mm-hmm. and we desperately need a culture shift here, and we need to like shift into high gear to make that culture shift, because it feels really weird. We got so many masters coming out of the works. I don't like that we vote them on the 6 months. I think we should wait a year. I think minimum it should be a year. Give them a year to be a master. Give us a year to watch you. And I also think we really need to redefine, like, what do we expect from our knights? Because right now it's just like an attitude thing.
Which is vague and varies person to person.
I know, like, there's this huge anti-movement against, like, my opinions, but I think you need to be a provider, and that could be teaching, that could be service, or something else that doesn't necessarily fit in those, but you need to be providing something back to the game. I feel, to be a knight. And I feel if you're not doing that, then you're a master, you're not a knight. And I keep seeing those memes going around where they're like, knighting doesn't mean you're a teacher. Like, I think there's like a big movement against that, like in the Iron Mountains. I might be wrong, but I think that's,
you're correct.
Yeah. I think that's where it originated. And okay, you don't have to be teachers 24/7, but if once a year you can give back to the community, and I don't feel like that's a very high expectation. Now, I don't think that should always be the expectation. Someone may have a really bad year. There may be a lot going on, and that's okay. But on average, mm-hmm. at least once a year, you should be doing something to give back to the community in some sort of leadership, teaching, or service role. And that's not, I don't feel like that's a lot to ask. And I feel like that's what makes a step of a difference between a knight and a master. A master is a master at their craft. And they may push their craft, they may share their craft. But like, if they're not putting back into the community, teaching a class, mm-hmm. Or making videos, maybe not like necessarily teaching a class, but like sharing their process even.
That's it. You have to be pouring into the next generation of Amtgarders. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do that. Teaching is generally the easiest and most prominent. But there are other ways. If you're not, say you have stage fright and you don't do well in a speaking environment. Okay, cool. There are other ways in which you can pour into the next generation of Amtgarders, but teaching is generally the most prominent. And so from my understanding, what Iron Mountains, I don't want to categorize the whole kingdom, but from the voices that I have heard coming out of the Iron Mountains, they want to raise the moral bar of what it takes to become a knight. But then once you are a knight, lower the responsibilities of what is expected of them. And it's a weird, like, I don't understand how you can do both. And I would love to get, if you're watching this from the Iron Mountains and you're like,
yes, hey, please.
That's my thought.
Me too. Help me understand. Because I feel like then you're just a master. You're not a knight. Like, if you're not giving back to the community and helping grow the community and shape it, and I guess those are the best words. Whatever. Then you're just a master.
Yep. Well, I remember a while ago on one of the Amtgard leadership panels, Amtgard Leadership University panels, Tato had an idea that I love. he says belts should be for 5 years. And they should then be voted on or re-given, or because if you are and he said, if I am not actively competing in tournaments, which in his mind, competing in tournaments is what sword knights do. That is, sword knights need to be visible. That is their way of teaching, is being active participants in their kingdom's fighting scene. And if I get to, and he said, I'm going to misquote it, but he essentially said, if I get to a point where I am not doing that anymore, that doesn't negate the skill I had. So I don't think you should take my masterhood away. But if I am not actively participating anymore, why should I be a knight? And he said 3 years, 5 years, 10, whatever it is, set a number. And because we have a lot of knights who just don't participate anymore. And I don't know what to do to fix that other than throwing a rule on there that says, hey, look, you have to do this. And then but then if we move that bar, knights are going to get right up to it. It's like, no, I taught an event 3 years ago. That's all the rule book says. And you get into that type of stuff too. So it's like,
well, at least they had taught if it gets them to teach a freaking class at least once every 5 years, then I'm all for it. Let's do it. I agree that the activity of knights can really die off. Right now I'm on a 6-month break from kingdom stuff. I'm not doing anything kingdom for 6 months, after the last reign, where every Saturday I was doing an interview, about, not every, but most. And
which is well deserved. I don't think there's anything wrong with
taking a break is fine.
Yeah. Getting your headspace back where you need it to be. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about knights who got knighted 7 years ago and literally haven't been to kingdom in 5 years, haven't been to an event, haven't been to a tournament.
You're not a knight anymore.
I agree.
You may not like what I have to say, sorry, and you have to hear it. And I could be very opinionated, and that's okay. But yeah, you're not really a knight anymore. You're not what I was taught when I came into Amtgard what a knight was. Someone that's there for the community. So that's all that I would ask. That's all that I really expect. And there's a lot of different ways, like Godric said, you could do. So,
well, there's
figure it out. Brainstorm with your fellow knight buddies. Maybe do something together as a group so that you're not just doing it all by yourself.
And there are some people, and this doesn't bother me, and I know you might disagree with me on this too, but I don't mind if you have a massive belt line and you are pouring into your kingdom by pouring into your 5 squires that are actively serving in the kingdom. And that is you're not teaching a class, but through your guidance, you are helping your squires still make the game better, and they are trying to push. I don't have any issue with that either.
Oh, no, I agree with you. So there's this, I follow spoon theory, where, you only have so many spoons a day to do things, and that may vary every day how many spoons you have. I feel like that also applies. You are heavily mentoring a few people that are active in the community and helping build and grow the community. So you're doing your service totally. Your spoons, maybe you didn't put them to a class, but you helped train these 3 guys, and now we have some awesome battle games, or, now we have some really efficient leaders that make good policies and, help to make the game better and safer for everybody.
And I think you can also be what I would want our knights to be without teaching. I'm trying to go through other ways. It's I don't want to be a teacher. I look at someone like a Navrin or Smurf who are not teaching classes, but man, when they show up anywhere in the country to play Phoenix League, people are in awe because of how much they have won and the way they conduct themselves on the field. I look very similar. That's how a lot of sword knights are in my mind. They inspire awe in new players and give something for those players to push and strive for. I think that's kind of what we want our knights to do as well. And then interact with those new players in such a way that is encouraging for those new players. That's good with me.
So when I first started running battle games on the kingdom level, both of them gave me feedback. Both of them approached me and talked to me about games and things like that. And Amber and I had a rocky start. I did not like him for several years because I thought I caught him cheating where he was trying to help balance a game because he knew the players better. He understood the, game mechanics better than I did at that point. This is probably like my first Kingdom of game ever. And I got real mad at him for going against the rules that I had laid down. But we have since worked that out, and I'm very glad because he's a very good person as a mentor and very knowledgeable about the game and can provide you with a good feedback on how to improve. One of the things I joked about, so like Sir Shorty is my knight. He picked me up when I was into ANS.
He's
and
a Serpent Knight as well.
Yes, he is a Serpent Knight. And then like I was like, look, I have to take a break. Like leadership, man, like they need somebody, and I think I can be that person. So I got heavily involved into the leadership. Took a break from ANS. I'm still on break from ANS. I haven't gone back yet. But when I was Monarch, I autocrated one of my events and I held bids for one of my events. And Smurf and Cads, who are both master smiths, they helped teach me. They helped train me because I also got involved in running encounters for Night Quest at Keep because of my involvement with Temple of Amtgard, who got asked to, do Keep Night Quest one year. And it carried on for several years after that. But we always joked about how I had 3 knights. Like Smurf was my knight when it came to teaching me like battle gaming and stuff like that. And then Kaz was my knight and like teaching me and mentoring me and like leadership and like my roles as like Monarch and things like that. And Shorty was my knight and teaching me about Amtgard and ANS and stuff like that. Yeah.
I get that. I get that for sure because I always joke that I have 2 knights as well. A Navrin is my official overbelt, right? He's the one on the wiki where my line goes through. And a Navrin taught me a lot. And a Navrin was one of the ones who was able to tell me when to keep my mouth shut and when I shouldn't. He was one of the ones who I was able to just vent to, and he was a sounding board for me when I was frustrated. And he was a very big encourager in my path. But then I have Sir Declan, who is really the ANS, all of my ANS stuff. A Navrin didn't teach me anything about ANS. Declan taught me all of that as well, And so I think I have learned as much from both of them, just in completely different ways, in different aspects of the game. So I completely understand what you're talking about with having multiple knights, multiple people that are mentoring, pouring into you, so you can then do what you want to do for the rest of the game. So I get that 100%. So before we move on from Crown into the Smith, and I pick your brain about the Smith stuff, what advice would you have for someone who is looking into doing Kingdom Office for the first time? They maybe have done their local barony or their Grand Duchy. They are familiar enough with the game and the rules, but they are contemplating going into Kingdom Office for the first time. What advice would you have for them?
Have a plan. You want to have some kind of plan. You don't want to just go off the cuff. You're also more likely to get people on your side and support you if you present, a well thought out, organized plan that is engaging for them. If you want to win the election, you can't win it on necessarily just popularity alone, which is really hard to say because it is very much a popularity contest. I would say definitely for Monarch. But in a lot of the other roles, it's you're trying to sell yourself. So you need to have a plan and be able to present that effectively to get people on board on your side. Advice for once you get it, you can't please everybody. So learning, I would say, how to handle conflict management. Learning to keep a level head, to remove your bias, to be able to recognize your own bias, and being honest Because like if you are try to be misleading or dishonest, you're most likely going to get found out in that sphere. Somebody's going to talk. People are going to talk to each other. Like screenshots are going to be had. Like just be straight with people. And be sure to do something that you want to do. A lot of times when I go into office, like I do have like the people like in the forefront of my mind and like their experience, but don't forget to also make it fun for yourself and do something fun for yourself. So like I said, I autocrated one of my events because I wanted to have that experience. And I wanted to push the story that I wanted to push. But definitely like do something for yourself in the office if it's something you want to push. Like if you want to make sure that people who get their master hoods get their hoods, right?
Which you should. Everyone should care about that.
Do something that is going to make the experience more enjoyable for you so that you're not like St. Godric here and never want to go back to office again.
I think for me, the reason I don't is because I ran for regent because I love tournaments, and then COVID happened and I wasn't able to run any of the tournaments. You know what I mean? And so we shifted to online, which was okay, but not great. And then boggles my mind how Rising Winds Kapora is set up that the regent doesn't get 10% to spend. Like, I feel like the regent should for awards and hoods and like all of the things that we want to be giving. And the regent doesn't have any funds to spend. And the regent isn't on like, I don't know. I feel like regent and champion get left out on.
I feel that both of them actually deserve a budget. I was talking about someone like with this earlier. I think both of them deserve a budget. Champion needs a budget for war skills, weapon checkers, loner weapons.
Prizes, throw prizes out. I mean,
like trophies, belts, cool plastic dip swords that they can hang on their mantles, whatever. Same with Regent. Regents have lots of papers they need. I know they give the PM 10% discount, to print out shit, but Regent, you got to print out a bunch of stuff too. Like, and you want to give out cool awards and prizes and stuff like that. So basically the regent and the champion then have to go begging to the monarch and the PM to try to get some of their 10%. And back in the day, monarch and PM used to get 20%. And then like they realized, oh, we have thousands of dollars. Maybe we shouldn't give people 20% of this. And
it's 20% per month. It's not just 20% for your whole reign. You get 20 or 10% now, but 20% back then.
Yeah, it was each 20% month. Per month.
Yeah.
And so they decided that was way too much because we started making, we got cheaper event sites and bigger events. And so we started making a little bit more money to be able to put on better productions. And so
I remember in particular, I was thinking about spending some money to get a custom made Rising Winds tunic for the prize of the first online Dragon Master, because we were really trying to push for participation online, keep people engaged and all this. And I wanted to go big, right? I wanted to go to Lady Armstrong and like $300, like,
oh, if you can get on that waiting list, man.
Yeah, well, it would be one of those things where we would purchase the spot and then whoever won would get in contact and they would deal with all of the whatever, as long as it was just a Rising Winds themed tunic that person would then be able to go and do. Because if like one of the things in ANS and the Rising Winds is so many of our masters, once they get their masterhood, they don't ever compete again. And so I, as someone up and coming, hated that because I felt toxic warlord culture. I wanted to beat a master. Like I wanted to know if I was better than the current crop of ANSers out there. And there wasn't any, I think I had 4 tournaments in ANS before I competed against a master.
It's a weird culture in Amtgard, maybe not in Amtgard, sorry, in the Rising Winds, maybe. Once you get your master, they expect you to back off.
Which is dumb.
It's a high expectation. And this is true for everything except warlord. They want you to come out if you have your warlord. But if you have your master in ANS, if you have all your points in crown or, master crown now, they don't want you to come back out. They're done. They want you to step aside to let the next person who's up and coming get that opportunity. which I can understand. I want to give people opportunity, but in the same instance, like these were things that I loved doing, and now I don't get to do them anymore, or I get shamed for wanting to do them and trying to do them. It's very toxic.
I want to give up and coming artists the opportunity to beat a master. I remember how significant that was for me the first time I beat a reigning master. And I want to give the opportunity for other people to beat me in tournaments. I don't think they will, but I want to give them the chance to, and for me, when I was Regent, I wanted to throw a massive prize because that's how you get the masters to come back out. You know what I mean? Like everybody.
Oh, it's true. We haven't had prizes for ANS ever.
And you would. If
you'd get a cool scroll, maybe, if you was Dragon Master.
Maybe.
If you won quals, you didn't get dang. At least if you win quals and you're a fighter, you get the cool War Master title. Like it's very underappreciated, I think.
But if you had a $300 tunic on the line, people are showing up.
Oh yeah, people show up with bells on. Let's go.
Yep.
So what's next on our agenda?
Next on the agenda, I want to pick your brain about your master smith.
Okay.
So because there are so few of them, what theoretically, brand new player or not brand new, 2-year in player has 4 smiths from his local park. He is looking to make that jump. He doesn't see very many master smiths in the kingdom, doesn't know what the next step is. This person is sitting at 4 smiths. What's the next step for them? How do they break into that upper echelon of smith work?
Well, I think it depends on the layout of your area. I mean, luckily here locally, we have regions. Known as Grand Duchies. That's not very common in all the kingdoms. That's a little bit higher. So you're still thinking kind of low. Honestly, what I did is I wrote a quest that took place over several weeks. I went to the monarch and I was like, hey, I want to run this. You don't have to do anything, right? Monarchs love that. Love that. So write a quest. Get some people to help you run it and read it. Run it for your local park. If you're at a shire or a barony, contact the nearest duchy. Offer to run it for them. Just start designing quests or events. Like I got a lot of my smiths because we would have holidays, like Easter. I did a big Easter event with a bunch of different Easter games. I did a Halloween event with a bunch of Halloween games. Like run lots and lots of games and people will take notice. Sure. And I think that quests people are going to give more notice to because a little bit more goes into a quest than you just running a random battle game that you designed at park one day. Mm-hmm. I think quests are going to get you more recognition. I'm not saying that's fair, but I think that they will get you more recognition, like more visibility than just running a battle game.
For sure. I think the goal for those who are trying to get smith, you need to make games, events, or quests that people remember. That isn't, it's another node game, another node capture game. Like node capture games are fun, but anybody can run a node capture game. For me, the one that jumps, everyone should be able to run node capture.
I've seen some people run some bad node capture games. I'm not going to lie, but okay.
The one that like jumps to my mind is Paint's giant, I don't know if you participated in this, but it was he broke out the event site into nodes and zones, and it was a multiple hour game, and each node and zone had different resources. And like, so whether you like or dislike the game, that event is still memorable for a lot of players who are still talking about it 4 years later. Oh
yeah. I looted so many items. There's a whole bunch of magical items that you could earn. Mm-hmm. And I just stole a bunch.
Which fits with
They let me.
That fits with the character you were talking from your parlor Larp too.
Yes, they let me. But I'm a dragon, so there were some shinies. And I was like, can I have these? And they were like, okay. And so I was like, yes.
Yeah,
but I think I was doing service during that time. I was running around in the cart, like helping people with stuff. So I did not get to play in it, but I heard a lot of feedback about it, and a lot of it was positive. Yep. You're right. You want to make it memorable. So like some of the things that I like to do to make games memorable is use terrain effects. Introduce like a new annoying terrain effect that people have to try to overcome. They won't forget that. They'll hate you for it a little bit, but they'll remember it. I did an underwater event, and for the first game, and it wasn't all underwater, but majority of the area was underwater, and you had to get certain items that were in the battle game that would let you walk in water. Otherwise, you had running, like you couldn't run, you had to walk, or you could crawl, you could move fast on your knees. So it was either walk slowly or you could move fast on your knees for the underwater terrain. And each game after I introduced the initial water terrain effect, I introduced a new type of water game. So I had jet streams where if you stepped into this one circle, water would shoot you out across the field. So whether you did intentionally or unintentionally,
that's cool.
You may not be where you were. And I also did currents, so where you could swim with, or you couldn't swim against the current because it was too strong, or you could. So in the woods where the paths are, we would open and close certain paths because the currents were shifting, and you could or couldn't go down certain paths sometimes. And I know, like, one of the funniest things, there was this really heated, intense conflict going on between like two different teams. There was probably like 6 to 10 people on each side throwing spells at each other, like stepping in every once in a while to hit each other, healing, releasing and doing all that stuff. And then I just walked in between all of them with a current and was like, re-engage. And Emmanuel, I remember he was like, seriously? Like, you're doing this to us now? So, but it's, I think creating like challenges and surprises can help make games more memorable. So I'm a big fan of terrain effects. I'm also a big fan of magic items, and not just making it a shop, but also like introducing them into the game where they can be retrieved during the game and then useful during the game. And you want to introduce them as early as possible if you're going to have them, so that they can continue to use them in the future games and actually get use out of them. And props. Oh my God, props will make your game so memorable. And costumes for your monsters, and choosing the right monsters. You need to choose the right villains. I got Sevik to play an Egyptian god Anubis for me,
which is great.
One time, yes, he was excellent at it. This Anubis god. But he played it up. He hammed it up. You want people that are going to do that and have fun. They don't just have to be good at stick. In fact, it's more important to me that you're good at role playing the villain, and rather than just being good at the stick.
For sure. One of the things that has been hard for me, I think I have 6 smiths maybe, or 5 smiths, something like that. And I've found myself, I've hit a wall because I love Bridge Wars so freaking much. And I love competitive company versus company battle games. And I think I can run and design those pretty well. You ask me to design a quest. I think I've participated in Night Quest like once. You know what I mean?
Maybe you're not a master smith if you can't write a quest.
Exactly. So that's what I was going to say. How important is it to be able, so the main games, there are non-competitive fun battle games. There are competitive battle games. There are quests. What other types of games do you think a master smith or someone aspiring to be a master smith should be proficient in and be able to conduct fun games for the variety of different types of games that are out there?
Time waster games. Okay. Develop just fun time waster games. So I developed a game. It's called Rainbow Run. So there's 7 colors. You have 7 strips of the 7 colors, and this can be run everywhere from a shire up to duchy, or even a kingdom technically. So you assign a team each color. If it's only one person, they get all 7 strips. if it's 5 people, they have to divide the 7 strips among themselves. And the object of the game is to complete the rainbow first. And so you have to go out and fight people and defeat them, and then loot their strips to get all the colors.
Sure.
And so like just fast turnaround games like that, like creating something like that would help. I would say time wasters. It's not really like a battle game.
Yeah.
It's more like a warm up. It's like a different style of ditching.
Yeah. It's like a kill your killer type of just throw it in. Everyone can have fun for a little bit and move on. Yeah. I like that. The time killer. That's a good category. That's pretty neat. So for you, what was the most difficult part of obtaining Master Smith? Like you talked a little bit earlier about doing 2 events when you were already at 9 and not receiving that. Was that the most difficult? Like what was the most challenging aspect of it for you?
Getting a chance. Getting the opportunity, because a lot of people already have their friends or company mates locked into warcrat or questocrat positions. Mm-hmm. So I struggled for a long time, like before getting my 8th, like just trying to get a chance. I think I got my 7th, 8th, and 9th all from night quests at Keep. I got opportunity there, but I couldn't get opportunity in the kingdom to run. I don't know. Maybe people don't like me. I guess I could be difficult to work with.
No, I think you've hit on something there. Most people who come in as king or as Otto already come in with who they want, and they are generally, there is part of it where they want to work with people who they know that they can work well with. But I think there is an aspect of me and my boys, right? Like I need my guys to be able to get this opportunity to get this award. So I think I have said that for a while, that all of our events should be bid out. I'm so happy Skiffy did that for the first time in my memory as an active player in a long time. And I loved that. I would love
my events.
What was that?
I bid out one of my events specifically because as Monarch, you get 2 events. So I knew one I was going to run the way I had kind of envisioned, and I bid out some of the crap positions, but the second one I bid out completely.
And I think I would love that, because then it is, I guess, twofold. One, I think all the bids should be made public. And so like, here's a PDF of my bid, and the whole kingdom knows here are the 4 bids that we have. And then I would love it to go even a step further. I would prefer that we take away the event, the monarch getting to select the autocrat, and make a separate voted upon board that is in charge of the events. And that way they can plan out further than the monarch's reign. I hate that technically we can't even start planning Bridge Wars yet until Keep, if we don't know who we only have 1 person running now, but if there's 2 or 3 or 4 people.
It sounds like Midgard. So Midgard's one of our grand duchies here in the Rising Winds. It's a region in Ohio, several parks for those who do not know what grand duchies are. They have, I think, either their monarchy or they have like a board, and they plan out whose bid they're going to accept like a year out. And that's how I got the opportunity, because I told some people I wanted an opportunity, that I need an opportunity, that I want to prove myself, that I had a lot of good ideas, and that's how I got in.
I would love that. I think I would love a team of 5 that run on, call it, 2-year terms, and they rotate off, meet quarterly, so it's not a huge time commitment for that. But I think the Amtgard it's a detriment to itself that we can't plan further than the current monarch's reign. I know the SCA runs on a prince and king system. So when you are prince, you are the prince for 6 months, overlapping the king for 6 months. And then, so you have 6 months as prince and then 6 months as a king. And so you're committing to a year-long term, but then you get a little bit more longevity. I think it hurts us that we can't plan further out than the current monarch's reign. I would love for all that to be taken away from the monarch, have a board that decides all that, and it's a public bid system. I think that would make our game significantly more fair and more fun.
It probably would. Like, I have an initial reaction to not want to, but that's just because I have the faint memory of power when I was monarch. Yep. It's intoxicating. But you're probably right, where it would be more fair, more effective and efficient to plan those things out more ahead of time and leave that to an advisory board to make the decision rather than the monarch making the decision. And I think that would help a lot with nepotism and providing more opportunities to people and letting people feel like they have an avenue to chase their path. Because I think that might be probably the biggest thing holding Smiths back is there's not a lot of opportunity out there.
Yep.
Because a lot of it's being filled by the boys, not to be gender exclusive, right? Just memeing here, but
yeah. Well, it's people who my friends, my beltline, my company, whatever it is, they need the opportunity. So I'm going to become king. So that way my boys get the opportunity. That's how the Rising Winds is ran since I've been involved in all aspects. It's just with Smiths in particular, there are so few opportunities out there. What, 4 a year, 5 a year? You know what I mean? And so
5, you're pushing it.
Yeah.
There's 4 a year, 4 opportunities a year to prove yourself. And that's a lot of times the Warcrat, from my experience, may have 1 or 2 people in their beltline or who they're mentoring that they allow to run a game, but they're not out there asking the community, hey, does anyone want a chance to run a game? If I was Warcrat, that's what I would fucking do. I would put out a post, be like, hey guys, I'm going to be the Warcrat for this next event. I'm looking for up and coming Smiths. I want you, I have 2 game slots. I'm going to bid them out to somebody. I will give you feedback and help you develop your game. And I will give you the reins for that game, just so you can, get your name out there, show your skill. But I never see that. You don't see that for Smith. Smith is super hard to get. There is. That's why there's only 4 of us.
In 20 years of the kingdom.
In 20 years of the kingdom. I'm the first woman. Hear me roar. I worked hard to get here.
Does Watt have a Master Smith?
Maybe. He's got a lot. He's like the master
flame
of everything. He's the master flame of everything.
Because if he does, there's 5. I don't remember if he does or not, though.
This will be easy. How many people are named Watt? Oh God, just come up that way. Okay, no. Apparently his name is too long and complicated. The orc's kind of weird because, if your name's too short, it's very hard to find people on the orc.
Yeah,
but he is from Max Keep, so it should be pretty easy for me to find him.
But I know if he's not, there's only 4. If he is, there's 5 in the history of the largest kingdom in the game that has been not the oldest by any means, but a fairly old kingdom. And we're talking 4 opportunities a year to get the chance to prove yourself, let alone that's assuming you get an award every time you do it. And realistically, if you get 1 a year, 1 opportunity a year, you're looking at a multi-year long path that I think is more exclusive than any of the other paths that I can think of. Sword, maybe, but probably not. I still think Smith is probably more exclusive than Sword, simply because the opportunities are fewer.
It looks like he is 9.
9? Okay, so he's almost there.
I see his anti-master rose, but I think that's actually like his master rose. It's like a joke gag thing or whatever.
I know he's got crown and rose and lion.
Yeah, he's real close on Smith.
Good for him. He's made some of the most fun games I've ever played.
Oh, hurt my feelings. No, he makes amazing. Those are super fun.
He had one that I remember. It was a Ebb and March event where he had taken paracord and strung between two trees. And on this paracord, it was above our heads. There was a magnet, and he gave each of us a sword, each team a sword with a magnet on the end of it. And you had to hook it up to the line and move it down the line. I remember that
game. It was
so fun.
It was super fun. He comes up with amazing complex games like that where there's, I have a more creative perspective. I'm not so strong in the technical. Lauti the builder, I utilized his technical skills. He made traps for me. We had a falling rock trap. We had an arrow wall trap, like where arrows shoot through the wall, right? So I could add some technical stuff to some of my night quests. But yeah, he's great at adding technical aspects to Bow Game that are safe, fun, and effective.
Yep. I love that guy. He makes some amazing stuff.
He'll get there.
Yeah. So moving on down the list here, we talked a little bit about your belt line with Sir Shorty. Anything in particular about your belt line, either above or below you, that stands out from other belt lines? Or is it all fairly, I don't know what you would call it, vanilla, right? Pretty normal?
Honestly, I don't really know how to. I've been talking with Knights about this recently because I've been struggling to kind of develop my own belt line. And it's something that I've seen and I've heard lots of things about, and it's a part of the game that I want to get involved in. But my Knight isn't really that active in Amtgard right now. Hasn't been for a little bit. And even then, he wasn't that active in my progression. I kind of came to him late anyways with 6 dragons, right? And then I immediately switched over to Crown, which was not his cup of tea at all. He doesn't go to night meetings. He doesn't believe in advocating for his squires. He wants you as a squire need to be self-advocating enough to be recognized by the circle. And like he had requirements and things like that where you had to participate in ANS and stuff like that, which I think are good requirements to have, like for your servant belt line, that you want your people entering stuff. But I don't think I had any kind of atypical belt line experience, and I still don't have one to this date. So I don't really know how to answer these questions.
Oh, I gotcha. For sure. I think it is good for people to hear you say that, because so often people are like, well, knights have everything figured out.
I don't have anyone to help me with my armor. No one to wash my chains.
Well, I was going to say,
my spurs on.
How long have you been a knight?
It's 2017.
So 5 years. And 5 years in, don't have a squire yet, right?
Yeah,
so,
or man-at-arms or pages.
There you go. So, and one of the reasons I phrased it that way that I did is because I know some belt lines that have, like I was talking with Sir Smiley. Smiley has something like 13 or 14 squires.
How do you guys do this? You're taking all the squires. You're taking our opportunities just like our Smiths.
And then I've got guys on the other hand, or people on the other hand who I've interviewed who have one at a time, and they like that more personal one-on-one relationship. And then I like your perspective here, because you just very flatly said, I've been talking to other people because I'm not sure what I want to do. And I think that is important for our viewers to hear and to understand, is that your knights aren't these pillars of, I don't know, certainty. Like, we still don't know what we're doing all the time.
No,
right? Like, we're still adjusting our belt line requirements and what we want to do. We're still constantly growing in other areas of the game as well. So just because you see a white belt doesn't mean that person has every single thing in every area of our game figured out.
I'm looking for belt liners. Talk to me.
There you go. Well, and that,
I want to mentor people. And if you think that, like, I don't know. I feel like, honestly, I feel real guilty. Like, because I should be teaching what I know.
No, I get that for sure. I think part of what you're doing here, and also what you did with your the interview series that you were doing with the Rising Winds, has impacted and taught in a variety of different ways to a bunch of different people. With the advertising for an underbelt, that leads into the next question there for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
You're good. Okay. Do you prefer people come to you, or would you rather go to them and ask them? Or both?
Both. I mean, so like, there's been several events the past couple of years, like where I had an eye on somebody that I kind of tried to like build up a friendship with them, and I watched their work, because one of the things that I expect in my belt line is that you're going to put the effort in. If you're not going to put the effort in, kind of like how we talked about earlier, the admin, the wiki, right? Like, I can't put the effort in. I need that equivalent fire if you want me to burn at my hottest, like at my brightest. Like, I need to see that fire in you. And I work well to build off of that. But like, I go to people, I talk to them, and then either they got belted by someone that event, they're already belted to someone and I didn't know because I'm dumb. And that has been my experience. And I've never had anyone come up to me, except for one person who I said I needed to spend more time to get to know them, and now they're banned. So I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, I know some knights only want to approach people, and that seems a little weird to me, because I feel like that seems super standoffish.
You're shamed for chasing, but I want you to chase. That shows you've got the passion, you got the fire. I chased my way all the way to Crown. I chased my way all the way up to Master Smith. Like, it's okay to chase. It's okay to run. It's okay to have goals and to push yourself and drive yourself, and to feel glad when you get those achievements and accolades for your hard work.
100%. I agree. There's this idea out there sometimes that we can't push for masterhood, or you can't actually say you want to be a knight. And like, I think that's silly, right? You can't have the pedestal of our game, the thing that these guys and girls get thousands of dollars in gifts at their knightings, and say, nah, I don't want that. Like, I think you should have goals in the game, whether that's Paragon, whether that's masterhood, whether that's, I want to see my park be a duchy, right? Pick these goals. And when you achieve those goals, freaking celebrate them. Like, enjoy them, have fun with them, because you earned it when you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with being proud of what you've done. Like, that's a good thing. Like, get those good vibes, get those good goods, man. That dopamine kick, right?
Yep. I like it. So anybody, how about this? Do you have any preference? Like, would you be against having a belt out of the kingdom? If someone, say, from Polaris is watching this, or someone from, I don't know, Neverwinter is watching this, and they go, hey, I'm looking for the Smith stuff, and I don't know Daedra that well here, but maybe I can send my write-ups and she can give me feedback. Or does someone have to be local? And if so, that's okay. It's just, how do you feel about that?
Luckily, I feel like it may be different with Serpent, where there's a lot more hands-on stuff. When it comes to smithing, a lot of it is just writing, diagrams, write-ups. If you're getting to the props crafting, it may be a little hard, but like, we could do like video chat and stuff like that. Like, it's not impossible. I'm not against long distance relationships. I'm in one. But yeah, like, I haven't been able to travel outside of Kingdom, because recently I used to do it a lot more, but I would not be opposed. Like, if someone was like interested in Smiths, but I wouldn't also expect them to watch, this podcast and be like, oh, that's a Master Smith, and without having seen any of my work or have any feedback on my work to trust that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, but there's part of it because there just inherently aren't very many master smiths, that the fact that you have one is going to lend you credibility just because of how rare they are, right? It's like even an old sword knight is still a freaking good fighter. You know what I mean? Type of thing.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you have earned it, I think you'll be surprised at how much like cred that gives you in that sphere throughout the game.
Imposter syndrome. I'm terrible at what I do.
I know for me, I have 2 squires. One plays with me locally, and that's Madness. He is on a completely different path than me. He wants sword. He's pushing hard for it. He is already significantly a better fighter than I am. And then the other one is Haliax, who is out of my kingdom and is pushing.
Well, now he is.
Yeah, pushing for owls. And he was 2.5, 3 hours away from me, give or take. And so I have always had belt lines that have been far away. My knight was 5 hours away from me for most of my Amtgard career. So the idea, especially with online stuff and group chats and everything else, like it's fairly easy to make that work with people who aren't, 30 minutes away from you.
Haliax is a great pickup. He has such a great personality, and he's such a good artist. So give me some feedback. Like, how did you grab him? How did you know to go for him?
So I was looking for someone to pick up for arts and science stuff. And when I was looking around at tournaments and who was entering, I looked specifically for Grand Duchy stuff. Because at that time, most of the people entering at kingdom level were already picked up and I already knew. So I was looking at things that people I hadn't met or I didn't know. And I was judging an Ebon March tournament, and he entered some stuff, some leatherwork stuff and some plastided stuff, which I was impressed with. And I got to know him a little bit better, and just sent him a message one day and said, "Hey, I don't know, are you belted to anybody?" And he said no. And that surprised me because he is such a likable person, and he's just a good human being, and he's incredible at what he does. And I think he was at like 7 owls maybe before when I picked him up. So it's like kind of what you're talking about, a late pickup, right? And his craft is not mine. I can't do anything he does other than I can do plastided, but I can't do armor and I can't do leather. So our relationship isn't a skill transfer one, like some of the sword ones or but it is a, hey, what are you working on? Oh, that looks really cool. You should try this. I love to judge and love to compete. And so he can send me his write-ups and his work beforehand, and I can critique it as I would as a judge. Mm-hmm. So he can then go into these tournaments on a better footing than what he would have been otherwise. So. Yeah.
That's one of the cool things I know about like arts and sciences. Like, you can still understand like balance of a piece. Like you may not do leatherworking, you may do painting or garbing and stuff like that. But like composition is universal. And that's, so you can find universal things among the arts and sciences that you can apply to different mediums and still be able to share and teach in that regard.
For sure. One of the things I think that he needs that I can give is just that constant, like, hey, what are you working on? Oh, that's pretty cool. Send me pictures of what you're working on. Yeah. And it's not a structured thing. And it's just a, hey, what are you working on this week? And here's what I'm working on. And
it harkens back to how we talked about bringing someone into the game, even where you just talk to them, ask them a couple questions. People love to talk about themselves. People want to talk about what they're working on. Yep. It's that level of engagement. And some people just need that level of engagement to keep pushing themselves.
For sure. And something I did when I was looking to, it's the JSORC. It's Ken Walker has a program that he's done that pulls different reports from the org.
Yeah.
And you can search it by kingdom, by level award. And so I pulled 5 to 7 from Kingdom of the Rising Winds and just look through and see if I recognize any of the names. See if there were people.
Maybe I need to
get out there. I'll send you the link.
We can do it later.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. But it was one of those because for me, personality and meshing is very important too. I don't want to pick up 7 people that are going to get masters if them and I aren't going to get along well, or if I am not comfortable inviting you over to have dinner with my family, I'm not going to offer you a belt. Right. So I've got some.
I feel that's important.
Yeah. So I've got some skill aspect because for me, I want my people to get masterhood. I want them to want masterhood. Whether they achieve it or not doesn't really matter to me, but I want them to have the desire to get there. Mm-hmm. And so that you have that, but then also the people, I am a fairly abrasive personality. So who are the people that I don't rub against too much and want the skill set, you know? So he was on my short list. And then when I messaged him, I said, hey, are you in a belt line? He said, no. I was like, well, heck, you want to?
Heck, you want to?
Yeah. And I've got like a list that I send all of my prospective belt lines. I've got like 6 or 8 expectations that they can have from me and then I can have for them. And so that way they know what they're getting into. I don't want anyone. I had some pretty bad early belt line interactions when I was a new player. And so I have made some rules around that. So that way they know what they're getting into and I know what I'm getting into.
Are you talking about the same belt line that I think you're talking about? The one we were in together?
Yeah. It was fine. It was a very large belt line with a lot of people that I didn't particularly know. And as a new player, I felt I got taken advantage of and was muscle, a lot of the, hey, set my tent up type of stuff. And that's not the type of knight I want to be. I'll never ask my squires to do anything that I won't do with them. I might say, hey, help me set my tent up. I'll help you set yours up type of stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. I don't expect them to like wait on me hand and foot. I expect them to have passion and we can share that and grow together. That's what I would kind of expect.
Yep. I don't want someone that like fawns over me. Like I don't want the cult of personality type of thing. And I feel like some knights get that, right? It's like, oh man, this knight walks on water. It's like, nah, I don't want that at all.
It always seems weird and forced whenever I see it to me.
Yeah. Haliax is funny because he gets into the role play more than I do. So like I'll be like, hey, can you help me tie my armor? And he goes, yes, my knight. What, and he gets into some of that stuff.
No, that's funny though. That's hilarious. Yeah. I love role play. So I would then like get into it as well and be like, do well, my squire, do not disappoint.
Yes. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the like almost using your underbelts as free items. Like, hey, make me this, or like the free labor at events, or we're like, I'm not about that stuff. So, moving on down the line, or I guess we can put the pin in that here. Do you have anything else belt line wise you want to chat about before we move on down the list?
We can move on. Cool. I think we're only like halfway down this. We're not even halfway down this list of questions. No, we're close to it.
Well, how about this? You've got the list too. Pick out of all of the points that we've got left. We've got fighting company stuff, household stuff, recent stuff. Like what have you been working on recently? Future things. What are you working on next? The Mount Rushmore question, or any hot button issues. Pick 2 of those and we'll end the show with those 2 points.
Yeah, because I think we've been going on for a hot minute now.
We're approaching 2 hours.
All right, so I can really talk about fighting companies because like mine kind of like fell apart over COVID, and I don't know if I even have one anymore. What's recently going on, I'm on a break, so I don't really know if I have much to brag about. So they're kind of eliminating themselves here. What am anything upcoming I'm excited for? So things I'm working on. Okay, this may get me some hate, but I feel very, really strongly about this. So Rising Winds has a history, a tradition of awarding masks for role play. Per the rules of play that we are contractually agreed to follow, role play is listed under dragons.
It is.
Dragons.
It is.
You are hurting people's ladder climbs up the dragon chain by not giving them dragons for excellent role playing. Now, you can give them a mask too, because I understand tradition and you want to give masks. Maybe they're not as serious. Maybe like if there wasn't really a lot of role play, but like they monstered or something really well and you want to give them masks for it, that's cool. There are tons of people out there that have role played and have amazing monster kits and stay in character and role play their characters through night quests and through events and through feasts and court and all that stuff. And they get masks when they should be getting dragons. We should be doing a mask to dragon conversion. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be equal. Definitely going to have to like look at them all one-on-one and try to think back to remember, like, or luckily if they wrote the notes for the mask in the orc like they're supposed to, where it's like, why is this award given?
Yeah.
It can help us determine the legitimacy of the masks versus how many dragons they have. But we need to do this. We should start giving dragons as well as masks. I'm not saying give rid of masks. I understand it's tradition. You want to keep it, sure. But also give dragons. We should be giving dragons for roleplay. We need to do a master dragon conversion. And it's something I've been pushing for. The monarch at our local park agreed to it. So I'm working on doing that right now for Medic's Keep, doing a master dragon conversion. So that's something that I feel really strongly about. I'm currently on break, so I haven't been harping about it because I don't want to cross the line. I could. I'm bad about it of being like I'm on break and then like agree to do something and then be like, oh, dang, I'm supposed to be on break.
Same.
Yeah, so that's what's coming.
What would a master? I'm just interested. What would a master dragon for role play look like in your mind?
Full kit. Like I want to see full kit. Like it doesn't have to do face paint if you don't have face paint, but I need to look at you and you need to like be from The Witcher, be from Game of Thrones. Like I need to see a high production value on your kit. And then I need to be able to quickly and easily identify like parts of your personality based on your role play and your even your physical presentation. Like this is acting. It's acting. Yeah. Like if you're hunched over, if you're like a shy or, you know, like you can do so much with body language, so much with tone, with expression of your face and how you present it. There's a whole lot of levels into it. If you don't know anything about acting, like I did theater, like all through most of my life. But that's basically what it is. It's just fantasy acting, and people should have dragons for it.
See, I've never heard of or seen a master dragon for role play, but it's not something I'm opposed to.
South the Goblin.
What was that?
South the Goblin.
Okay.
He's from Ohio. He has an amazing kit. Every time that I've seen him in his kit, he is South 100% of the time. Never drops South. South is memorable. South is interesting and funny. There are definitely like personality quirks that are consistent and held through. That's a master dragon right there.
I can see it. I'm not opposed to that. It's just one of those that I don't see that often, so I don't have much experience one way or the other with it. That's cool though. I could get behind that.
I think he's a master mask.
Okay. I like it. So that's what is coming up. You're going to start, your goal is to do a kingdom-wide mask to dragon conversion. So there's one question. What's the other one you want to answer?
Oh, goodness. It's a hot button topic. What's hot button right now?
Well, that can be, so that question is mainly, is there anything in particular that you want to chat about that I didn't ask about? Is there something that's near and dear to your heart that you have an opinion on, you want to use this platform to get that opinion out there, and I didn't happen to ask a question that led into it?
Oh, okay. My brain's going everywhere right now, so I can't answer that one.
No worries. And if not, don't worry about it. We can move on into the closing. I
guess we could do Mount Rushmore. This one's super easy. This one's so easy.
I love it. All right. So the question here, to frame it for the audience, I'm going to start asking all of my guests towards the end of our shows if they were in charge of building a Mount Rushmore, top 4 most influential, doesn't have to be the best, but who would they put on the Mount Rushmore for their particular area of expertise? So do you want to do Crown or Smith or do separate ones?
I'll do Smith because it's so easy.
Go for it.
Okay. So probably on the Mount Rushmore for Smith, we're going to have Smurf. Top up there, Smurf. And then we're going to have Watt. and Ash. And there we go. There's my Mount Rushmore. My face is being slowly etched on there, you know.
There you go. I was gonna say you get 4. Is the 4th one gonna be yourself?
Yeah. 4th one's gonna be myself.
Of course.
There's my bragging, because there's usually like anything you can brag on. So there's my bragging. I got my Master Smith. Finally, it's been a long time goal. I wanted my Master Smith for a long time, since before I got knighted. Like there were a couple masterhoods that really like struck me as things that I wanted to achieve. Master Dragon, Master Smith, and Master Lion.
That one's hard too.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. But I like a challenge, I guess. It motivates me.
Yeah, for sure.
If things are too easy, you know, you get bored of them. They become dull. You move on to other things, you know, that might hold your interest or be more challenging to you.
For sure. 100%. So last question as we close up. Who would you like to call out for me to send an invite to? Pick 2 people to come on and be on the archive.
Oh, goodness. I think Ash might offer some interesting perspectives.
For sure. He would be a good one.
Certainly. I'm trying to think on like the opposite spectrum here. And not just local. I'm trying to like think of everyone that I can think of.
Doesn't bother me any. What are the chances you get Shorty on a mic?
Never. Never.
I knew the answer to that one.
It would be an interesting conversation, I'm sure, though. Certainly. I guess another shout out to local. I know he loves to talk, and he's got all kinds of crazy stories to tell. So who knows what kind of things you're going to pull out of the bag there? But Sir Horace, you know, like he's a super old Amtgarder. He's local. They're both local guys, but they're who I could think of off the top of my head, like that I think would actually like provide some interesting perspectives, probably on things that haven't been covered yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Because stripping, you know, is never a good experience, and I'm sure that's probably a perspective you haven't received yet.
Correct.
And
stripping of belts. Let's clarify.
Yes. Oops, sorry. If you're in the know, you're in the know. No, stripping of belts. And then I think, like, from my understanding, like, Horace has moved like all over the place.
Mm-hmm. He's played everywhere.
And so he's an interesting guy. So I think that he would provide an entertaining show, to say the least, for sure, and have a lot of he could probably tell you a lot more old guard stories than a lot of people.
Well, with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the archive. We had Saint Daedera on. Really appreciate you coming on. Viewers, if you have made it to the end of this 2-hour and some odd minute podcast, appreciate you a bunch. I love the 2-hour ones. We generally go between an hour and a half and 2 hours. So
they quit listening like an hour ago.
Believe it or not, my YouTube analytics tell me about 20% of our people make it all the way to the end. So
oh, that's really good.
Yeah, I think it's not too bad. So viewers, we appreciate you for making it to the end. If you want to see more content like this, please hit